The first song that you discover by a band that you end up liking will likely end up being your favorite. That is until you dig further into their discography. I consider the early 2000s a pivotal time for me when I would find music that would shape my tastes moving forward. The 90s were for discovering music and finding what I would like through my parents' album collection and whatever much music showed to me at the time. I knew from then that I liked rock music with bands such as Collective Soul, The Tea Party, April Wine, and Rush, just to name a few. And then the 2000s came. I became a teenager in 2002, and my sense of wanting to become independent and find things on my own was growing strong, as it would with anyone at that age at that particular point in time. I was getting into a more darker and edgier style of music than I had been listening to at the time. Ozzy Osbourne brought me heavy metal, Meshuggah brought me death metal, Mushroomhead brought me industrial metal, and of course nu metal was there as well. I had liked Korn previously, but then bands like System of a Down, Mudvayne, and Slipknot got into heavy rotation through my stereo system, and my CD Walkman too. As I went through my teen years, I eventually rediscovered rock music in a matter of speaking. Coming down off the highs of metal and darkness, I started finding rock music that really reattached me to what got me into it in the first place. In late 2002, I heard Queens of the Stone Age for the first time when they released their single No One Knows from their album Songs for the Deaf. It wasn't as heavy as I had come to like my music, but there was something about the energetic, playful, and bluesy nature of the track that really got my attention. Eventually, I would hear the other singles too, like Go With The Flow and First It Giveth, which is a phenomenal track by the way. Naturally, that would lead me to the album, and then to other albums and songs going down the road. As the years moved, their next album, Lullabies to Paralyze, came out, and of course, I ate that right up. By then, I had discovered the album Rated R, and then Air Vulgaris would come out soon after Lullabies to Paralyze, so there was just a whole bunch more to take in. I didn't even realize until about 2008 that at that point, I don't even think I had heard the self-titled album. The album was alright, definitely rough around the edges and way more stoner rock than the other projects, but it still had some pretty decent tracks on it. One track in particular grabbed me from the word go. It was dark, moody, a little mysterious, and has one of the best chorus payoffs I think I've ever heard, and that track, of course, is You Can't Quit Me, Baby. The song has a pretty straightforward meaning behind the lyrics. One read through or listen and you already catch on pretty quickly that we're dealing with some pretty dark subject matter. The song deals with themes of obsession, rejection, and self-harm. We have a protagonist who's stalking a potential love interest, and it seems that this love interest is not aware of it. This stalker breaks into the person's house, and why they do that will come up momentarily. They declare that they are indeed mentally unwell and seem to see no issue in what they're doing. This person is so psychotically obsessed that they even start following around their friends in hopes of actually seeing them. This stalker is essentially a ghost to this person. They purposely don't want their presence known, but at the same time that could contradict some upcoming lines. Along with references to self-destructive behavior, they've heard something said by their love interest that could potentially be a slight to the protagonist. But being this mentally far gone and far too in love, this will not stop them. The last little bit can be left up for debate, but I believe the protagonist ends their life either in front of this person or in their home, referenced by the bleeding in the sink and wanting this person to notice when they're not around and have this be a forever thing. The refrain of "You're solid gold, I'll see you in hell" is likely this person's final message to the person they're obsessed with. It can be assumed that the deed was done and things spiraled out of control pretty much exactly how the protagonist wanted, and that's accented by the music, which I will get into soon as well. I had mentioned earlier that the music on this whole album is a little rough around the edges. The production was very muddy, and it was also very heavy on the stereo panning of the instruments, but that kind of adds to the disjointed stoner rock type of vibe going on. The bassline starts everything off with a riff that drives the vast majority of the song. A simple bluesy riff that keeps a great consistent groove moving across a well-suited slow drum beat and some very mysterious and haunting guitar passages. The rhythm guitar that moves through a good chunk of the track is mostly quiet and unassuming, and that adds to the dreary atmosphere of the song. It does a good job of putting some dark and decrepit imagery in your head before the lyrics even kick in. Josh's vocals can be a hit or miss for many people on this album. Future albums would see his range and dynamic really be pushed in every direction, but I think there's something about the bland presentation that suits not only the story behind the song, but also the fact that he was so young when he wrote this, and it matches the stoner rock vibe really well. He's not entirely lifeless in this track, but he's definitely not as characterized as future albums would have him be. As we get through the first third of this track, one of the biggest differences we see before we get into the big chorus is the reverbed wailing guitar. It works so well in this story because it gives off that woe is me feeling that the protagonist gives off, so it can accent the wailing Josh is doing vocally in these parts. The next section has this unsettling, bending guitar before the big chorus finally breaks in. With the track's imagery, this part does a great job of showing us that things are getting too unhinged at this point and something big is about to happen. And then the chorus kicks in. Now, this might not be the most complex and life-changing piece of music, but I think this part is so well done that it never ceases to get an actual reaction out of me. The layers really fill up, with the guitars becoming fully present, the chord progression so dramatic, and the drums pick up in full intensity to let you know we're hitting the story's climax. The small guitar fills behind all that adds just a little bit of extra life to an already amazing part of the track. The bass still rides on its F octave run, but then eventually follows the chord progression once the vocals kick in. I think this is a really smart choice because it drives the intensity in the first part of the chorus and then really heightens the drama in the second part of the chorus. The background vocals that add that haunting layer really help pop the refrain out more, and considering how pivotal the refrain is to this particular song, it's executed beautifully. And I'll say it too, whenever I listen to the song, I end up rewinding back to the beginning of the chorus every single time because of how excellent it is. It's simple but effective, it's powerful but not overwhelming, it gets its point across perfectly. The rest of the song beyond this starts by reprising the bridge and the pre-chorus. The reprise pre-chorus starts to slip into chaos super quickly though. The tempo gradually gets faster as the riffs repeat to the point where the instruments go into a frenzied mess. At the end of it all, it just seems like nonsensical goofing around on the instruments. That is until you remember the song's story. I mentioned previously that what this person had done to themselves must have been fulfilled. And this can be seen in a couple of different ways. Either this is the chaotic dying moment of our protagonist, or this is the absolute terror felt by the person who just walked in on this. Regardless, the instrumentals do a great job of really presenting the raw, horrifying, surreal nature of this situation. With the way everything finalizes at the end, I have a feeling that this person will notice when their stalker's not around, and given everything that they've just witnessed, it'll follow them wherever they are. Queens of the Stone Age have made 7 studio albums at the point of me writing and recording this video. They've written many hits, memorable tracks, and super catchy hooks. There's a lot people can say about their music and how well polished Josh Homme's guitar playing and writing have gotten over the years, and that can't be understated. With that said though, there's absolutely nothing wrong in going back and revisiting the bluesy stoner rock roots that this band started with. Sure, it's not the sexiest sounding record, and it doesn't have the clean, spot-on production that future projects would have. And this is his first big undertaking more or less on his own, so his best creative ideas aren't even out yet at this point. But sometimes those debut albums have absolute classics on them. 9 Inch Nails had Head Like a Hole, the Ramones had Blitzkrieg Bop, Weezer had Undone, Aerosmith has Dream On, so on and so forth. So does You Can't Quit Me Baby live up to those classics? Honestly, probably not, but with that said, it is definitely cemented in my own mind as one of the better debut album tracks of all time that I can listen to endlessly, even to this day. And that's why I love this song.